Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Spiritual life ever feel like this? You need to tune up your spiritual life. You've got a tool, you can tune it. This is what you describe as dead on arrival. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, all that's needed for the Srimad Bhagavatam class for me is a Srimad Bhagavatam. The book. We had a book yesterday. Now all you need is a shelf that comes out for the harmonium. And it'll be perfect. So we're reading from 7th canto, 8th chapter, I believe, text 44. Yes. This section is different demigods are praying to Lord Shiva, glorifying him, and they're also trying to pacify him, if you could say that, but that seems like what they're trying to do. Because he was very angry. And yesterday we read that they said, you know, you were angry and your anger served a purpose, but now it's time. It serves no other, you don't need it any longer. It served a purpose. So, we're beginning on text 44. The inhabitants of Pitriloka prayed, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the maintainer of the religious principles of the universe. He has killed Hiranyakashipu, the demon who by force enjoyed all the offerings of the Shraddha ceremonies performed by our sons and grandsons on the anniversary of our death, and who drank the water with sesame seeds offered in holy places of pilgrimage. By killing this demon, O Lord, you have taken back all this stolen property from his abdomen by piercing it with your nails. We therefore wish to offer our respectful obeisances unto you. You know, one of the things that you see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that demoniac people like to disturb the sacrifices of the Brahmins because they're afraid that Vishnu will become more powerful by the sacrifices and Vishnu is their enemy, and that the Brahmins will become more powerful and the Brahmins are their enemies. So they're always disturbing sacrifices, like in Ramayana, you remember when, who was it? Vishwamitra? Yeah, he came and said, you know, these demons, what's their name? Disturbing the sacrifice. So he asked if Ram and Lakshman could go, and so it's like, it's typical. And then when Rama was in the forest, there were so many Rakshasas who were actually eating the sadhus. Disturbing, well, you know, that solves the sacrifice problem. You just kill all the Brahmins, then there's no sacrifice. And you just see that, it keeps coming up. And Hiranyakashipu is doing the same thing, intercepting the sacrifice. He didn't stop it, he just intercepted. Maybe he's more intelligent. Get everything that's offered, I will steal away. Yeah, so, and at this time on the planet, the Brahmins, to maintain the sanctity and prosperity of the universe, they did sacrifices. And so this was really bad that the sacrifices were interrupted. Purport: it is the duty of all householders to offer food grains to their departed forefathers. But during the time of Hiranyakashipu, this process was stopped. No one would offer Shraddha oblations of food grains to the forefathers with great respect. Thus, when there is a demoniac rule, everything concerning the Vedic principles is turned upside down. All the religious ceremonies of yajna are stopped. The resources meant to be spent for yajna are taken away by the demoniac government. Everything becomes chaotic, and consequently the entire world becomes hell itself. When the demons are killed by the presence of Nrsingadev, everyone feels comfortable, irrespective of the planet upon which he lives. Don't get any ideas. Go out and kill everybody. Yeah. In Kali Yuga, of course, if you were to kill demons, you'd have like a lot of work. It's a very unfortunate age, because it's not even that there's anyone in the government that even knows the value of sacrifice. So it's not like they're consciously stopping it. They don't even know that it should be done. So in one sense, it's worse. At least if you know it and stop it, at least there's knowledge. Yeah. So this is text 45. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka prayed, O Lord Nrsingadev, because we belong to Siddhaloka, we automatically achieve perfection in all 8 kinds of mystic power. Yet, Hiranyakashipu was so dishonest, but that by the strength of his power and austerity, he took away our powers. Wow. Thus he became very proud of his mystic strength. Now, because this rogue has been killed by your nails, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Hare Krishna. I have a Rogue. That's the name of my car. So now every time I get in the car, I'm going to think of Hiranyakashipu. I don't know if that's good or not. This Rogue. What's the Sanskrit? Prabhupada used. I think Prabhupada just added that. Where is it? Asadu. Where? Yo no gatim yoga siddhim asadhur. Okay. Most uncivilized and dishonest, but doesn't he say that? He says Hiranyakashipu was so dishonest. Yeah, you could say a sadhu. All right, I'm going to rename my car. But that's not a good name. What kind of car do you drive? I drive a sadhu. All right, we'll call it sadhu. Well, Abraham Lincoln said, I learned, there was not a leader that I ever met that I didn't learn something from, and most of what I learned was how not to do what they did. So when we think of Hiranyakashipu, we can think, okay, just don't do what he did. On earth, there are many yogis who can exhibit some feeble mystic power by manufacturing pieces of gold like magic. But the inhabitants of the planet Siddhaloka are actually extremely powerful in mysticism. They can fly from one planet to another without airplanes. This is called Laghima Siddhi. Laghima Siddhi. They can actually become very light and fly in the sky. By a severe type of austerity, however, Hiranyakashipu excelled all the inhabitants of Siddhaloka and created disturbances for them. The residents of Siddhaloka were also beaten by the powers of Hiranyakashipu. Now that Hiranyakashipu had been killed by the Lord, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka also felt relieved. Text 46. The inhabitants of Vidyadhara Loka prayed, "Our acquired power to appear and disappear in various ways according to varieties of meditation was banned by that foolish Hiranyakashipu because of his pride in his superior bodily strength and his ability to conquer others." Well, he's stronger than I thought. Now the Supreme Personality of Godhead has killed him, just as if the demon were an animal. Unto that supreme pastime form of Lord Nrsimha, Deva, we eternally offer our respectful obeisances. Wow. Hiranyakashipu was one extremely powerful demon. Of course, Krishna gave him that power to do these things. The most powerful entities in the universe, he's like, "You're nothing." He's blocking their power somehow and stealing it. Text 47. The inhabitants of Nagaloka said, "The most sinful Hiranyakashipu took away all the jewels on our hoods and all our beautiful wives. Now, since his chest has been pierced by your nails, you are the source of all pleasure to our wives. Thus we together offer our respectful obeisances unto you." No one is peaceful if his wealth and wife are forcibly taken away, unless you don't like your wife. But Prabhupada didn't say that. I said that. Yeah. You know, one time Lord Chaitanya, he upset one devotee. One devotee wanted to join the kirtan in Srivasanga, and Lord Chaitanya wouldn't let him in. So he was so upset, he cursed Lord Chaitanya. "You have no money, you'll have no material happiness, you'll lose this and that." Lord Chaitanya said, "Thank you for the blessing." He was so happy to have that curse. All the inhabitants of Nagaloka, which is situated below the earthly planetary system, were in great anxiety because their wealth had been stolen and their wives kidnapped by Hiranyakashipu. This is so interesting. Just in case you're thinking that, well, you know, if I can't be Krishna conscious, let me try for, you know, heavenly planets. And now here, look what's happening. You're like, you're not going to find an ideal situation. Sometimes the the demons, the asuras, become terrorists, and they go and take over. They don't just take over a town or a state or a country. Take over the whole planet. Hare Krishna. Now Hiranyakashipu having been killed, their wealth and their wives were returned, and their wives felt satisfied. The inhabitants of various lokas or planets offered their respectful obeisances unto the Lord because they were relieved by the death of Hiranyakashipu. Disturbances similar to those created by Hiranyakashipu are now taking place all over the world because of the demoniac governments. As stated in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the men of the governments of Kali Yuga will be no better than rogues and plunderers. Thus, the populace will be harassed. The populace will be harassed on one side by scarcity of food and on the other by heavy taxation by the government. In other words, the people in most parts of the world in this age are harassed by the ruling principles of Hiranyakashipu. So we're going to text 48. All the Manus offer their prayers as follows. As your order carriers, O Lord, we, the Manus, are the lawgivers for human society. But because of the temporary supremacy of this great demon, Hiranyakashipu, our laws for maintaining Varnashram Dharma were destroyed. O Lord, now that you have killed this great demon, We are in our normal condition. Kindly order us, your eternal servants, what to do now. So, if you want to create a materialistic civilization, you just do what Hiranyakashipu did. You just destroy yagyas, you destroy varnashram, you become a dictator, and manipulate everything for your enjoyment. If you want to improve the situation, you do the opposite. Purport. In many places in Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord Krishna refers to the varnashram dharma of 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. He teaches people about this varnashrama dharma so that all human society can live peacefully by observing the principles for the 4 social divisions and 4 spiritual divisions, varna and ashrama, and thus make advancement in spiritual life. The Manus compiled the Manu Samhita. The word Samhita means Vedic knowledge, and Manu indicates that this knowledge is given by Manu. The Manus are sometimes incarnations of the Supreme Lord, and sometimes empowered living entities. Formerly, many long years ago, Lord Krishna instructed the sun god. The Manus are generally sons of the sun god. Therefore, while speaking to Arjuna about the importance of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Imam Vishvate Yogam Proktaham Aham Abhyayam Vivashan Manave Praha. This instruction was given to Vivashan, the sun god, who in turn instructed his son Manu. Manu gave the law known as Manu Samhita, which is full of directions based on Varna and Ashrama concerning how to live as a human being. These are very scientific ways of life, but under the rule of demons like Hiranyakashipu, human society breaks all these systems of law and order and gradually becomes lower and lower. In other words, they create their own laws. They do away with Shastra and create their own laws. Thus there's no peace in the world. The conclusion is that if we want real peace and order in human society, we must follow the principles laid down by the Manu Samhita and confirmed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Don't you find it interesting that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that I passed this down, this knowledge, I passed it down to the kings. He doesn't say I passed it down to the Brahmins. Interesting. And these laws were written by a king, passed down to kings. And the kings were the ones who would maintain the law. The Brahmins would advise the king, but the kings, they needed to know the law, and they were the, executors of the law. So they were given the law. Isn't that interesting? Because normally we think, well, it's the Brahmins, they have knowledge and they should know everything. And Krishna is saying, I gave it to the kings because they're the ones who have to execute these laws. Interesting. So I was having a conversation with one of my godbrothers, and he said, Varnashram begins with Kshatriyas because they're responsible for everything. They will maintain the Brahmins, they will enact the laws, they will oversee everything, they will establish the whole society. So he said, I said, how do you start Varnashram? He said, you train Kshatriyas. That's where it starts. Interesting. And the more we talked, the more it made sense. I said, so, he said, we need to train Kshatriyas. And I said, if you had 300 Kshatriyas, what would you do? He said, you'd have to get land, because they have to rule something. Like the Pandavas, give us a little bit of land, have to rule. So he'd say that if you had 300 Kshatriyas, they would, and I would say, how do they do that? And he said, they're Kshatriyas, they'll figure it out. So I'm the Brahmin, thinking in my head, like I got to tell everybody what to do. He says, no, they're Kshatriyas, they'll just do it. You don't have to worry. So that was interesting. And of course, we've read this verse many times. Many of us have memorized it. And I never put 2 and 2 together until he said, Who was Krishna? How was Krishna maintaining the disciplic succession? Where was he putting the knowledge? He's putting it in the Kshatriyas, right? And then Krishna told Arjuna, and Arjuna's a Kshatriya also, this knowledge became lost. And Prabhupada said, well, it wasn't actually lost. The essence was lost, so it was interpreted. So people were talking, people were speaking this knowledge, but it was not in its pure form any longer. So in that sense, it was lost. And Krishna wants to make sure the kings ensure the principles of Varnashram, Dharma are maintained. So that shows us how important political leaders are, doesn't it? Because they, it's like everything's in their hands. Of course, like I said, they don't know what Varnashram is. So they can't establish something that they don't know, and probably they wouldn't believe it anyway. So we go to text 49. The Prajapatis offered their prayers as follows. O Supreme Lord. Should I read this dramatically, like it's a theater? I have to pray to Prajapati Prabhu that I can do this. I have to pretend like I'm Prajapati Prabhu, and he's giving class. And this is how he would say it. Let's see if I can do it. How many of you know Prajapati Prabhu? Prajapati Prabhu is an actor. And usually actors act on stage. He's an actor. He's always an actor. He's always acting like he's on stage. He's a dramatic person. I'm not so dramatic. O Supreme Lord, Lord of even Brahma and Shiva, we, the Prajapatis, were created by you to execute your orders. But we were forbidden by Hiranyakashipu to create any more good progeny. Now the demon is lying dead before us, his chest pierced by you. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you, whose incarnation in this form of pure goodness is meant for the welfare of the entire universe. I need a little practice, but maybe I'll do better on the next one. There's no purport. This is text 50, and this is from the Gandharvas. The Gandharvas are the singers. If you like to sing, you could end up on like all the people on American Idol will probably take birth on Gandharva Loka, their next life. Who knows? You have to have some piety, of course. The inhabitants of Gandharva Loka prayed, Your Lordship, we ever engage in your service by dancing and singing in dramatic performances. But this Hiranyakashipu, by the influence of his bodily strength and valor, brought us under his subjugation. Now he has been brought to this low condition by your Lordship. What benefit can result from the activities of such an upstart as Hiranyakashipu? So Bhagavatam is instructive because we're getting really, it's being made so clear by these prayers of the demigods of how destructive bad leadership is and how there can be no prosperity in human society with bad leadership. And we read in the first canto, and also in the Krishna book, if there was any problem, you could go to the king and complain. It's your fault. And it said in Ayodhya during Ram's, if you didn't want to die, you wouldn't die. If you didn't want to get old, you wouldn't get old. He had the power to do that. Wow, that sounds pretty good, right? Who are you voting for, Prabhu? I want to vote for a king. I want to vote for a president who I can go up to and say, I don't want to die. And he said, granted. So everything was because if all the yagyas are performed and the Brahmins are happy and the cows are happy, the citizens are happy, the king is religious doing his yagyas, then there won't be any problems in the kingdom. And if there are, then it's understood that he's doing something wrong and it's his fault, and then you can go and complain. Like we saw that Brahmin, was it a Brahmin? He came to Who did he come to? Yudhishthira, and said, my son died before me, it's your fault. Bad weather. You know, like here, I guess everywhere, but especially like here in the south, all the way to Alachua. One day it's 70 in the morning and 85, and the next day it's 32 in the morning, and the high is like 36. And you get that weather here? Yeah. We get that in Alachua. And I'm thinking, the poor plants, they don't know what is going on. They don't know if it's winter, summer, spring, you know. Yeah. And that's due to bad leadership. It's all the President of the United States' fault that the seasons are all going crazy. Well, it's all their faults for generations. Okay. Being a very obedient servant of the Supreme Lord, one becomes extremely powerful in bodily strength, influence, and effulgence. Whereas the fate of demoniac upstarts is ultimately to fall down like Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu and persons like him may be very powerful for some time, but the obedient servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like the demigods, remain powerful always. They are victorious over the influence of Hiranyakashipu by the grace of the Supreme Lord. You know, when our movement was starting in America, well, actually everywhere, there was a lot of antagonism. And personally, I was arrested. I've been in jail like 5 times. You know, for doing something glorious like distributing Prabhupada's books. Run out of towns by police, you know, escorted out of town. But Prabhupada would always say, you know, just go on, don't worry, you know, everything will work out in our favor. You know, we were being attacked in court, being attacked on Sankirtan physically, arrested. Devotees in Australia were being arrested regularly for doing Sankirtan. And Prabhupada, and they said, you know, should we fight the case, this and that? And Prabhupada said, no, just keep going out. Keep getting arrested. You can preach in jail, like that. And eventually it cleared up. When they had this another court case, it was a brainwashing court case, and Prabhupada said, well, for our defense, just read the Srimad Bhagavatam in court. You know, like what lawyer would come up with that defense? And we won the case. And if you watch that film on Prabhupada, the mantra, the meditation, they had me read the judge's decision. So that section I'm reading, the judge's decision saying that Krishna consciousness is bona fide. And Prabhupada's like, let him live a long life. He was so happy when the judge said that. Yeah. So, early in the movement, I don't know if you know how poor the movement was, but it was so poor that we would go out on door-to-door Sankirtan in the evening, and one of the things we would do was ask people, could you donate some fruit? And that was our breakfast. Maybe we asked fruit and yogurt. You know, it's like, okay, whatever we collect tonight is our breakfast tomorrow. You know, it's like that. And so some devotee wrote Prabhupada and said, the movement is so poor, like how are we going to like be successful? And he said, very soon we will become very rich. So there was always this like, how are we going to succeed? We don't have money, we don't have men, people are against us, court cases, we're being arrested. And Prabhupada was always, just wait, just wait. You know, you have Krishna on your side, we'll be successful. So, Hare Krishna, you know. Hiranyakashipu, many Hiranyakashipus come and go, but Krishna remains. Okay. Well, if I get to text 54, then I will have accomplished the goal for 2 days. Okay, so this is text 51. The inhabitants of the Charana planet said, O Lord, because you have destroyed the demon Hiranyakashipu, who was always who was always a stake in the heart of all honest men, we are now relieved, and we eternally take shelter of your lotus feet, which award the conditioned soul liberation from materialistic contamination. I don't know how to read this, but all I know is when you act, you have to over-exaggerate. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his transcendental form of Narahari, Nrsimhadev, is always ready to kill the demons who always create disturbances in the mind of honest devotees. And that's why we pray to Lord Nrsimhadev. Because Lord Nrsimhadev exists to protect devotees. You ever pray to Lord Nrsimhadev? Especially when the roads get icy and your car slides off. That ever happened to you in Dallas? Because it's like we're not used to snow, right? So if like snows, nobody's like prepared. Nrsimhadev, Nrsimhadev. To spread this Krishna consciousness movement, devotees have to face many dangers and impediments all over the world. But a faithful servant who preaches with great devotion to the Lord must know that Lord Nrsimhadev is always his protector. Hare Krishna. Should I read that again? That's worth reading one more time. To spread this Krishna consciousness movement, devotees have to face many dangers and impediments all over the world. But a faithful servant who preaches with great devotion to the Lord must know that Lord Nrsimhadev is always his protector. Okay, turn to the devotee next to you and tell them, Lord Nrsimhadev is always your protector. Now we need a little more enthusiasm here. I'm going to say that again and see if we can do this with them. Yeah, right. Okay. Don't forget that. Yes. The Lord Nrsimhadev has come to protect Prahlad Maharaj and protect all of us. And you just have to call him when you need protection. And there's obviously, we need physical protection, but we also need spiritual protection. So, it may look like there's no spiritual danger, so I don't call him. There's always spiritual danger. So we need his protection. And the nature of Krishna is that if you depend on him, you ask for protection, he gives it. But if you think, I don't need his protection, I'm strong, I go to the gym every day, I got a black belt in karate, and yeah. Well, you can't beat up Yamaraj. And Maya's way stronger than you. So we do need that protection. Protect us from all the obstacles. And, in Nectar of Devotion, it says we should pray to Ganesh to remove the obstacles. But Vaishnavas don't pray to Ganesh. They pray to Lord Nrsimhadev. And they asked Prabhupada about that. He said no. Even though it's there, he said no. And one devotee was collecting money, so he said, well, if we pray to Ganesh, we collect more money. And Prabhupada said, all right. You can pray to Ganesh, but you have to give me $108,000 every month. Then you can pray to him. Otherwise, and he said, not less than that, otherwise, no. So Lord Nrsimhadev is our Ganesh replacement, so to speak. So if you worship Ganesh, you become a Vaishnava. If you worship Ganesh, of course we don't worship Lord Nrsimhadev for wealth, but if you worship Ganesh to remove obstacles, as a Vaishnava, you worship Nrsimhadev. He'll remove the obstacles. Like sometimes devotees will pray, Lord Nrsimhadev, just like you ripped out the intestines of Hiranyakashipu, rip out all the contamination in my heart. Just come in, do an operation, and go in there, kind of like a laser surgery. Go in there with your lotus nails and just pull out all the stuff that I don't need. That's the prayer of the Vaishnava to Lord Nrsimhadev. So that's protection. And of course, Sometimes there are dangers in the world, and we naturally pray to Lord Nrsimhadev. Like when the police stop you, you pray to Lord Nrsimhadev, right? There's so many times we pray, yeah. Text 52. The inhabitants of Yakshaloka prayed, O controller of the 24 elements, we are considered the best servants of your lordship because of rendering... Well, I'm supposed to read this dramatically. Okay, rewind. Start over. Text 52. The inhabitants of Yakshaloka prayed, O controller of the 24 elements, we are considered the best servants of your lordship because of rendering services pleasing to you. Yet we engaged as palanquin carriers by the order of Hiranyakashipu, the son of Diti. O Lord, in the form of the Nrsimhadev, you know how this demon gave trouble to everyone. But now you have killed him, and his body is mixing with the 5 material elements. They're just celebrating. They're saying thank you. They're just emphasizing, We are very happy that he has died. And, some of you may question, if Vaishnava is supposed to be happy that someone dies, well, if someone is terrorizing the universe and causing distress to everyone, yeah, we're very happy if they die because the distress stops. Right? So, generally, a Vaishnava would never pray that someone die, but they might pray, Krishna, can you just take care of him because he's creating hell on earth, and something like that. Of course, if one is just Kshatriya, then it's their duty to kill such people. That's their dharma. But you know the story that there was a scorpion or a snake, was it? And Bhaktisiddhanta said, kill it. I think it was a snake. Bhaktisiddhanta said, kill it. And Prabhupada, I guess he was there and he saw that and he was confused. Vaishnavas, killing, we don't kill even an ant. And then Prabhupada read later in Shastra that scorpions and snakes, it's okay to kill them because they could kill you first. Anyone who could kill you first, you will not get the karma of killing them. Anyway, so everyone was happy when Hiranyakashipu died. The Supreme Lord is the controller of the 10 senses, the 5 material elements, the 5 sense objects, the mind and the intelligence, the false ego, and the soul. Therefore, he is addressed as Pancha Vingsha, the 25th element. Wow. That's a good name for a band. The 25th element. They're thinking you're talking about the periodic table. How many elements in the periodic table these days? You guys know? How many elements in there? More than when I went to school, I'm sure. They keep discovering, right? Who knows? Nobody knows. 82? What? How many? 118? Oh my God. How many were there when Prabhupada Priya, how many were there when you went to school? You remember? 105 when you... Yeah. Well, that's interesting. 105. So the 25th element that no one will understand, but anyway, we understand. If you start a band, you can call it the 25th element. Oh, 109th. Yeah. Krishna is the 120th element, right? The element behind the 119. Okay. The inhabitants of the Yaksha planet are supposed to be the best of all servants, but Hiranyakashipu engaged them as palanquin carriers. Well, just, like insult to injury. I'm in a take Krishna's servants and I'm going to engage them in my service. Like what? You hate somebody, that's a good way to take revenge, don't you think? I'm just going to take everything you have and use it. Ha ha ha. The entire universe was in trouble because of Hiranyakashipu. But now that Hiranyakashipu's body was mixing with the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, everyone felt relief. Upon Hiranyakashipu's death, the Yakshas were reinstated in their original service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus they felt obliged to the Lord and offered their prayers. Everyone is celebrating the death of Hiranyakashipu. Should we make one of those, get like those Mexican things, piñatas or something, or effigy, yeah. Or do it's easier to do a piñata because we're in Texas. Do a piñata of Hiranyakashipu and just smash it, yeah. Everyone would be happy. I guess that's Krishna's position, not ours. But we do that with Ravana, right? And he was Ravana, so I guess it's okay. You can start a new festival. It'll be the only temple in ISKCON with this festival. We're doing a Hiranyakashipu festival today. So this is text 53. The inhabitants of King Purusha Loka said, "We are insignificant living entities. We are insignificant living entities, and you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller. Therefore, how could we offer suitable prayers unto you? When this demon was condemned by the devotees because they were disgusted with him, he has then been killed by you." Everyone's celebrating. We could have the Hiranyakashipu festival. We have a Nrsingadev deity, and we can all come up to the deity and say, "Way to go. Good job. You killed Hiranyakashipu. I'm so happy." We can offer our own prayers. Now this is the purport. The cause of the Supreme Lord's appearance upon this earth is stated in Bhagavad Gita 4, 7, and 8. Whenever and wherever there is a decrease in religious principles and a predominant rise in religion, at that time I descend myself to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I advent myself millennium after millennium. The Lord appears in order to execute 2 kinds of activities: to kill the demons and protect the devotees. When the devotees are too disturbed by the demons, the Lord certainly appears in his different incarnations to give the devotees protection. The devotees, following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, should not be disturbed by the demoniac activities of the non-devotees. Rather, they should stick to their principle as sincere servants of the Lord and rest assured that the demoniac activities directed against them will not be able to stop their devotional service. Hare Krishna. So I think I was actually supposed to go through 56 and 54 yesterday. Does it matter? Should I? Well, 56 has a purport. Well, if I get through 56, we finish the chapter. Can you wait 5 more minutes? Okay, so this is 54. The inhabitants of Vaitalika Loka said, "Dear Lord, because of chanting your spotless glories in great assemblies and arenas of sacrifice, we were accustomed to great respect from everyone. This demon, however, usurped that position. Now, to our great fortune, you have killed this great demon exactly as one cures a chronic disease." Everyone is so happy that he's killed. This is definitely a festival. The death of Hiranyakashipu. Haribol! text 55. So we have 2 more verses. The Kinara said, O Supreme Controller, we are ever existing servants of your Lordship. But instead of rendering service to you, we were engaged by this demon in his service. Did I just read that? Did I just read that? Or is it like, it's identical to the last one, yeah. Demon in his service constantly and without remuneration. This sinful man has now been killed by you. Therefore, O Lord Nrsingadev, our master, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Please continue to be our patron. Then the last verse. Sri Vishnu Parshada Uchu. Parshada means associate. This is the associates of Lord Vishnu. Adjaitam Dharinara Urupam Adbhutam Te Drishtam Na Sharanada Sarvaloka Sharma Soyam Te Vidikada Isha Viprasaptas Tasyedam Nidanam Anugrahaya Vidmaha. The associates of Lord Vishnu and Vaikuntha offered this prayer. O Lord, our supreme giver of shelter, today we have seen your wonderful form as Lord Nrsingadev, meant for the good fortune of all the world. O Lord, we can understand that Hiranyakashipu was the same Jai who engaged in your service, but was cursed by Brahmins, and who thus received the body of a demon. We understand that his having now been killed is your special mercy upon him. That was his service, Jai's service, to be killed. So Jai became Hiranyakashipu, and that means Vijay became Hiranyaksha. 2 brothers, gold bed and gold eyes. That's their names. Did you know that? Hiranyakashipu. Golden eyes. Golden eyes and golden bed. Right? Golden eyes? Yeah. So we read the purport. Hiranyakashipu's coming to this earth and acting as the Lord's enemy was prearranged. Jai and Vijay were cursed by the Brahmins, Sanaka, Sanat Kumar, Sanandan, and Sanatan, because Jai and Vijay checked these 4 Kumaras. The Lord accepted this cursing of his servants and agreed that they would have to go to the material world and would then return to Vaikuntha after serving the term of the curse. Jai and Vijay were very much perturbed, but the Lord advised them to act as enemies, for then they would return after 3 births. Otherwise, ordinarily, they would have to take 7 births. Now this seems a contradiction. Would you rather take 7 births as a devotee or 3 births as a demon? You know, Bhaktivinoda says, you know, even as an insect in the home of a devotee. So he's saying, it's not like, well, I don't want to take 7 births because I don't know if I'll be a devotee. And no, you will be a devotee. And they were saying, but we live in Vaikuntha, and to stay away from Vaikuntha for 7 births is intolerable. But above and beyond that, they knew this is what Krishna wanted, so they did it. That's ultimately why they did it. Jai and Vijay acted as the Lord's enemies, and now that these 2 were dead, all the Vishnu Dutas understood that the Lord's killing of Hiranyakashipu was special mercy bestowed upon them. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled, Lord Nrsingadev Slays the King of Demons. Haribol. So what do we do now? Take prasadam, take questions, take comments. We'll do all 3, but there's an order to them. Yeah. All right. Questions, comments, confusions, bewilderment.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna. Thank
Hare
you, Prabhu.
Krishna.
I was just a comment, I guess. I just noticed there at the end the difference between the first prayers and the last one, because the last one was the associates of Lord Vishnu from Vaikuntha, and the other ones were from celestial beings from, Bhuvar Loka or Swarga. And, the lower celestial beings were all kind of lamenting, oh, he did this to me, oh, he did that to me, what a relief,
nice.
it's over. But whereas the residents of Vaikuntha, they had a more clear vision, that I understand this was your servant Jai who was cursed, and you've been merciful, and this has all happened by your will. It just shows kind of the vision, how the perspective is different. From these.
Good point. Yeah, whatever happens, the devotees understand this is Leela, even if it looks bad, we know. Well, there's a backstory, right? Maybe I don't know the backstory, but it's not what it seems, right? There's always a backstory, isn't it? And there's always a backstory to the backstory, and that's, Krishna's unlimited, so there seems to be quite a few backstories behind every Leela. Yeah.
Our lives also have a backstory.
Yeah, which we don't want to think about, but we like the backstory of it, right, when it comes to joining.
So, you know how they took 3 births?
How they what?
How they took 3 births as demons?
Yeah, 3 births.
So, the first one was Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. The second one was Kamsa.
Ravana.
Ravana
and
Kumbhakarna. And the third one was Kamsa Shishupal.
Shishupal and Dantavakra. Kamsa
So,
in another category.
what happened between those yugas when they were not in any body?
They lived a long time. Yeah, Krishna, well, doesn't have to be on this planet. They could take birth somewhere else. Krishna, he's got it all planned out. Although it doesn't have to be on this planet necessarily. I've never read any practical description, but Krishna makes the arrangement. He knows it's for his pastimes. It's for his pleasure. So he figures out how to do it. And, they can live long enough. Or, no, because Hiranyaksha died first. So then where did he go? He's waiting. Krishna has a place for them to wait till the next Leela's ready. And then you could also ask the question, well, like Jai and Vijay are gatekeepers. Did they disappear, or was it Jai and Vijay in another expansion went to the material world and they stayed? Because if it's like that, then they could have just come back again as needed. So, does anyone have another answer to this question? Yeah, I have to make an assumption. There's another question. I'll tell you a story. How many bodyguards did King Ugrasena have? Anybody know? Something like 5 million, I think. So this devotee asked Prabhupada, how do we understand 5 million bodyguards? It's like, where do you put them all? And why would you need so many? And then he asked another question. He said, the battlefield of Kurukshetra, they're like 680 million. So that's a lot more than 5. And he said, where do they all go to the bathroom? How could you? That's bigger than Kumbh Mela, the last Kumbh Mela. They get about 500,000, so this is even more. Where do they live? How did they eat? Where did they go to the bathroom? All these questions. And Prabhupada's like, don't bother your brain with it. You can't understand. And you don't need to understand. So sometimes there are things which happen in ways where we don't understand. And maybe, we don't really need to. But we understand Krishna can do it, What do you do with 680 million bodies? Well, burn them all up on the battlefield. You're like, we don't know how to do it. That's not just human bodies. Then you have at least 1 million or so elephants, right? No. Maybe you have 680 million elephants also. What do you do with 680 million elephants? Oh, horses, yeah. I have another story for you. In the Bhagavatam, it says that the sun travels on a chariot. The sun god travels on a chariot. So one devotee asked Prabhupada after class, asking about this. Like, how could we believe this? Or just asked some question, I forget, and Prabhupada said, why are you asking this question? She said, well, it's hard to believe. And Prabhupada said something like, what do you know? Like, what do we know of the universe? We don't know that much. That's what he meant. I don't believe in the sun god on a chariot. Well, okay, well, what do you actually know about the universe? Not very much. So, Prabhupada was making the point that there's some things that are going on by Krishna's arrangement. It's just we can't really understand how it's happening. Sun god on a chariot, yeah, right. But it's a personal universe. But Krishna's taking care of the Leelas. Krishna, he has Yoga Maya working for him, and all the pastimes are planned out, and all the details are taken care of. He's got production managers, and then he makes it all happen. And we don't always understand how it all works out, but it does. I think it was Prabhupada was saying that, just Prabhupada or someone was saying, you just imagine the complexity of the arrangement of karma. Like, I am your enemy, and then we have to meet in another life, and it's all got, we got to meet, and I have to get a certain reaction. You have to get a certain reaction, and then something good is going to happen to me next week, and then I have to be in the right place for that to happen, and the people have to be there. He said, just imagine, and that's happening for everyone in the universe, in all forms of life. How complicated is that? What computer could manage that? What software could manage that? So, and for Krishna, that's easy. You say, Krishna, how do you do that? And he goes, no brainer. Easy for me, easy peasy, So, Krishna has all the leelas, everything arranged. We don't know always how, but he's it's all worked out. Hiranyakasipu, and they're hanging around waiting for their next demoniac birth to fight with Krishna. You read the Ramayana, the fight that Rama had with Ravana, that was quite a fight, And they were really, really, at one another. Ram said, "You're the lowest of man-eaters. Actually, you're low as the stool. You are as low as their stool." Just insults, huge insults. Before a boxing match or some martial arts, sometimes they just insult one another. I'm going to kill you in the ring. You have no chance. You're a loser. And so that's what Krishna was, Ram and Ravana were doing, And you read it, and you think, okay, well, this is Jai. He's not aware that he's Jai. Of course, Ram is. And Ram's having so much fun just insulting him. You stupid idiot, you powerless, Wait till I chop your head off, and then you're bragging now, but when I chop your head off, and like that. And I'm reading this, and I'm going, oh, he's having a lot of fun. This is was all what he wanted to do. It was all arranged. Now he's this is in common terms, this is locker room talk. This is what, or whatever they do, before they have a match, they meet, they do some like press conference and insult one another, and so that's where it came from. Isn't that interesting? But like today, the same thing happens. You're fighting someone, you insult them. Well, not everybody does that, but a lot of people do. Yes?
A question, Prabhu. Yeah, because you're talking about how all these things are lila, although it seems like people are making bad choices and doing sinful activities. And so I'm just wondering, like in our time, things that happen, I mean, how much of it is just people playing out their karma and making decisions and, misusing their free will or properly, and how much of it is lila, just the Lord controlling things because he needs Kali Yuga to progress, and he, wants people to do things.
I will refer to a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, the verse on action and inaction, that it's difficult to understand. What Krishna is saying, karma is difficult to understand. And the more you talk about it, the more difficult it is. The more you see how difficult it is to understand, because if you want to overthink it, you can really take it to, is everyone in America now who is suffering because of the new government or enjoying because of the new government, is that like, we all have a communal karma? Did we do anything? I didn't vote, so don't deserve it, Or I didn't vote and I'm getting big tax breaks or benefits. I'm getting what I don't, In my estimation of it, I think the danger is if it's too fatalistic, we just be like, whatever, it's just all going to happen, so it's all destined. And we can't say things are not destined, but exactly, we can say everything is destined. It's like, yeah, but how do you know how destined it is? Because according to astrologers, it's not absolutely destined. It's like, we're in Texas. Okay, according to your karma, you're going to be in Texas, but the astrologer will say, not necessarily Dallas, that's your choice. Dallas or Houston, but I can see in your chart you're going to live in the southern part of the U.S. What do they call this? The Midwest or the South? South. You're going to live in the South, but where? Well, that's your choice. But that's kind of that's what I understand. So there is some choice, but also, how Prabhupada, he would say, well, your happiness, the amount of happiness you get is destined, the wealth you get and so on is destined. But he never said you don't have to work because it's destined. Because that would sound like, well, if it's all destined, why am I working? Because I'm going to get it anyway. But Prabhupada always said, you have to work. That's Bhagavad Gita, do your duty. Why do my duty? It's all destined, So, my realization has been, or my understanding has been that because we don't understand our karma perfectly, and all we understand, what we can understand clearly is that we should try our best to achieve whatever it is we're trying to achieve. That's what makes the most sense. And if you're not meant to achieve it, it's not going to happen. But you can't just sit on your bed and say, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, so I won't try. So you do your best. And I don't know what else you can do. Otherwise you become too fatalistic. Or you become detached in the wrong way. Well, I'm not attached to the result, doesn't matter. That's misunderstood also. No, I'm going on Sankirtan, I'm not attached to the result. You end up distributing like no books. And somebody comes and steals a book, so you're -1, You are attached, you want to distribute a lot of books, but you're not attached to the glory, the fame, the money, and all that. That's for Krishna. So, we can be renounced in the mode of ignorance. Oh, I don't care, I'm detached. Oh, the temple's falling apart. Well, I'm detached, I don't care. Like that. So I think between fatalism and that false detachment, the philosophy of karma can, can come in and people could justify that with karma. So, but when the hippies were complaining about the Vietnam War, Prabhupada said, well, you voted in the leaders, so it's your karma. Of course, a lot of them didn't vote. And he said, well, you're citizens, you live in the country. So obviously, there is some karmic consequence to living in a country. But whether that's seen in your chart or not, I don't know. It can be more of an immediate thing. But, one of the things we see, have you ever noticed that people who are negative, always negative things happen to them? Have you noticed that? It's like, you see them, how's it going? Not good. You see them 10 years from now, how's it going? Not good. 10 years, not good. And they have a whole list of things that are going bad. And you could kind of sense they were expecting it. So there is, there are also laws governing, the subtle world of thinking and how things happen. So I think, if you become too fatalistic with karma, it's like, it doesn't matter what I'm thinking, doesn't matter what I believe, doesn't matter what I do. But it does. And we see it practically. Right? And even if you don't believe that, definitely we see it in Krishna consciousness. It does matter how you think and feel, if you're positive, negative. It does affect you. Right? Then I can say, you're always so negative. It's my karma. It's right in my chart. I'll be negative, So what would Prabhupada say about that? He would say, well, do something about it. He wouldn't just give into it, right? If you're negative, do something. It's in my chart, it's this star. I'm going to be negative for 12 years. And then on the 12th, after 12 years, I'll be positive. And so I'm not doing anything. Just complaining for the next 12 years. No. That's not good. I wouldn't do that. Hare Krishna. Okay. I think it's time to end. Thank you for coming. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Radha Kavachanji ki jai, Go Premanandi.